Excuse me. This is the book of Joshua, chapter 23, starting at verse 1, and it reads, "And it came to pass a long time after that the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua given rest unto Israel." Malak! Slakia. And it came to pass a long time after that the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua had given rest unto Israel from all their enemies round about, that Joshua waxed old and stricken in age. Verse 2, and Joshua called for all Israel, and for their elders, and for their heads, and for their judges, and for their officers, and said unto them, I am old and stricken in age, and ye have seen all that the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power, hath done to all these nations because of you. For the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power, is he that hath fought for you. Verse 4, behold, I have divided unto you by lot these nations that remain, to be an inheritance for your tribes from Jordan, with all the nations that I have cut off, even unto the great sea westward. Verse 5, and the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power, he shall expel them from before you, and drive them from out of your sight, and ye shall possess their land, as the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power, have promised unto you. Be ye therefore very courageous to keep and to do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, that ye turn not aside therefore, therefrom to the right hand or to the left. Verse 7, that ye come not among these nations, these that remain among you, neither make mention of the name of their powers, nor cause to swear by them, neither serve them, nor bow yourselves unto them. Verse 8, but cleave unto the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power, as ye have done. Yes, where your chin. As ye have done to this day. Verse 9, for the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua hath driven out from before you great nations and strong. But as for you, no man hath been able to stand before you unto this day. Verse 10, one man of you shall chase 1,000, for the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power, he it is that fighteth for you, as he hath promised you. Verse 11, take good heed therefore unto yourselves, that ye Amazon love promotion. Choose one box and shit crazy. So Amazon promotion. Verse 11, take good heed therefore unto yourselves, that ye love the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, your power. I want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, all glory to Kol Haloyim La Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Rachahakodash. I want to say double honors to the elders and to the apostles that taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Akwath out there listening and learning. Lord, willingly this is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations, and subscribing to this truth. To you I say Shalom. So Brother Yahweh, and I'm coming at you with another lesson through the Spirit and through the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. This lesson is inspired by some, it's spiritual, because I was literally about to lay down, but I wanted to do this video, but I was going to put it off, and then the elder did another video, and it's going into the same subject, and it's the spirit, because I was listening to it at work. The elder was going in on, I can't remember the title of the video, but he was pretty much going into, I guess it's something going on with that guy, Shumpert, Jake, and his wife pretty much getting a divorce, and, the elder was going into pretty much how, because of the curses. And, I was humbled today because the elder broke down some stuff, and it's nothing like having understanding, call Loyam La Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, because he broke down something. And I always was about, what's that, Ecclesiastes, where it talks about out of 1,000 women I knew not none, but out of 1,000 men I knew one, or out of 1,000 men I knew one, and out of 1,000 women I knew not none. So I was always under the impression that pretty much ain't none of the women ain't shit. But the elder broke down why he said get you an Edomite woman or a woman of the other nations. So maybe I should reword it, because in actuality, like I get what the elder was saying, like, um, the so-called black women, the women of our nation, pretty much because we in Babylon the Great and we up under these curses. And you can see the curses are in effect to the point, I believe, just speaking as a man, that we're going to deal with these curses all the way till the Lord come back. You got brothers' eyes still single and evil. Well, you got brothers' eyes still evil to one another. You see that with the different camps, and then, just you see it. So like them curses are real and heavy, you know what I mean? And let alone with, the households, every brother is not subjected to the same curses though. So that's one thing you gotta get in mind, so like say again, you know, I'm gonna say this like this. Everything might not work for everybody, but brother find motivation from a lot of stuff. I remember a particular elder said a particular brother, a lot of shit he say ratchet, but at the same time, a lot of the shit he say be righteous. And and I was like, damn, that's deep. Because you can get inspiration from a lot of different things. And right now you don't need to be in a low spirit, you know what I mean? Especially with what's all going on, like maybe, years ago, Jake, if Jake was low in the spirit, brothers can, like spare that time to try to uplift brothers. But right now, if you in a low spirit, it might be something, you got to really meditate, because you got to think about it. We watch a prophecy be fulfilled right before our eyes. DJ Trump is doing gangster shit. And, today is one thing, but 6 months from now, just imagine how the world going to be changed. I mean, we watch change taking place just within a couple weeks. Well, DJ Trump been in office for what? Almost like 3 months. So just imagine, like say, by September. But not to digress or go up too far or veer too far off the subject, the elder was going into pretty much, he broke down why Jake, because again, I've had Edomite women, I've had, you know what I mean? And, I ain't always had to rent a bitch, you know what I mean? That'd be, I'm about to really even explain. The thing is, I've had Edomites in the world, and I've had Edomites in this truth. And, now that I think back on it, a lot of them might not even be Edomites, you know what I mean? I've never really been around a Becky, you know what I mean? Like, most of the women that I think are Edomites, now that I think about it, they might be Jake, But, I came to the realization, it's a reason why the elders are in the whole mindset of discipline, and to make you think of that movie, the End Game with the Avengers End Game with Thanos, He was willing to sacrifice things he loved, and he was a man of focus. Like what they say on John Wick, of discipline and focus. You know what I mean? And these are attributes you got to bring to this truth. Which again, women are very pleasurable. We enjoy doing different things. Brothers have their own. You got brothers that enjoy making music. You got brothers that enjoy, painting and drawing and whatnot. You got brothers that enjoy being around. I don't know, man, brother that don't enjoy being around a woman. But it's also, we're coming to the time of discipline and sacrifice, So not to digress, it just made me think about something, because the elder, again, made the statement about, that's how you know a nation's going down, by when you able to get that nation's women. And I was like, damn, that's deep, Because it was funny, because the elder was literally talking about, you have my blessing, get you a nice, wholesome Edomite woman. And it was funny because I ended up getting one, right? But then it's funny because how the Lord did it. In actuality, put it like this. I don't need that Edomite woman. Want to know why? Because I can see me slacking in the truth, So it's funny how the Lord do things. The Lord know what's best for you and what's not best for you. Like with my nigga woman, my demon, right? I couldn't, when I first came into the truth, and nobody took the time to break down shit to me. My brother give me a story, how I overcame, and therefore that's just make it, I had one Jake tell me, yeah, I went through this, and boom, that was it. Pretty much like Jake was in the mindset of, throw you into the pool and learn to swim, And actually, that's Yahweh Shem Yahshua did that. You know what I mean? That's just like brothers that's coming and being awakened and coming into the truth. You know, like the elders and certain brothers been in the spirit. You're gonna have to, you know, like you don't have as much time as you know the elders had or we had coming in the truth. You gotta, you know, get this on the go. You know, you can't bump your head as many times as certain brothers did. You know, I noticed that. You know, I remember the elder said something one particular time, and I recognized it was the spirit of the Lord on him. I'm gonna just leave it at that. He said something. He said, "Don't do it no more." I said, "Damn." So you know, again, we in some awesome and fearful times because you know judgment could come out of anywhere. You know, but you know, I said all that to say this because when he made that statement, I said, "Damn, that's deep." You know, because, and I'm gonna just read the quote. You know, it says to hear the lamentations of their women, a tale of the sword. You know, it says hopefully people will recognize the quote to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their women, because pretty much if you broken your enemies and your women, their women are pretty much in subjection to you, and a woman doesn't have power over a man has power over the woman. You know, and these things took place when Edom broke, you know, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, some of Indians, West Indians, and Haitians. And, you know, why would it be any different when they're being broken? You know, the elder been, I mean, I'm talking about, I think this is like his second or third video recently going into this subject about Isaiah 4:1, because you can see it, you know. You know, that pride is still here, but the pride is leaving these women for real. Because these women are struggling. You know. You know how a woman will have her nose up? Nah, her nose ain't so uppity in the air. You know what I mean? You know, because, you know, the struggle is real. It says, it is from the Conan the Barbarian film starring a very young Arnold Schwarzenegger. When asked Conan what is best in life, that was the reply. He said, what's best in life? When you got power over your enemy. And when you got power over your enemy, you know, the spoils of war are the booty or the women of that nation. You know, and again, you know, Esau, Edom, or anybody else may get offended, but it's all this, you know, wholehearted truth. You know, you got to think about it. I remember, I believe it was the elder Malcolm, Salakia. The elder, it was a particular elder that basically brought out, it was an old Jake that they was writing down his memoirs. And he was talking about on the slave ships, pretty much, they hadn't even been, you know, in captivity that long, but pretty much Esau was, pretty much the women had already conformed to Esau Edom. You know, it didn't take, you know, months of them beating them and doing all that. It was pretty much once they broke the men, the women had pretty much, and I'm not saying that's the case for all of them, you know, but I'm going to say this much. I could believe it didn't take very long. And that's why, you know, the scriptures talk about, you know, my people will be willing in the day of my power, which is referring to Yahushua Mashiach. But the scriptures talk about us being joint heirs with Yahushua. And that's why, again, when you go into, what's that? I just read it. Was that Joshua chapter 23? He said, because the Lord is going to fight for us. So with the Lord with us, you know, if the Lord is with us, who could be against us? You know. And then, you know, like, you know, pretty much the scriptures have provisions, and it's a law in the scriptures going forth when it comes to war that pretty much the women of the other nations can be made into lesser wives or concubines. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 10, and it reads, when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua thy power hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and hast a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and par her nails. Verse 13, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. So you basically, if she, you conquered the nation, you took her, and pretty much, as a spoil of war, you gave her a time to grieve, just like Israel is given a time and an opportunity to mourn. That's why you wear sackcloth and whatnot. But I was thinking about like certain women, like recently. What was that, like last year? I met this female, and she had all these. It's funny because I was thinking about a particular elder. He was talking about how you met some wicked ass women, or with some women that had spirits. He was like, the crazy women, be like the ones that be the most craziest, got all the demons, be having the best shit. But the point is, I knew something was odd about her. She had a little shrine and mural to her dead mother. And, I understand, you grieving your mother, but after how many years? It's a time period to war. This woman ain't even here no more. You got ashes. So it's like, our people really bugged up. I was listening to the elder. He was talking about Jeroboam with the 2 golden calves, and, then pretty much that was the Northern Kingdom. And if you've ever been around any Northern Kingdom, like any Ephraimites or Issacharites, they heavy into idolatry. So when he said it, just like stirred something up in my spirit, because I'm like, damn, he right. I used to mess with this. She appeared to be an Edomite, but she was Jake. You know what I'm saying? And she had a sister. It was weird because they was Ephraim, and it was 2 brothers that fucked with 2 sisters. And the sisters appeared to be Edomites, but the brothers was Ephraimites, and they had a sister. And pretty much that was the first time I ever seen, Ephraim had that shrine to the dead mother, and the mother, they had like a roach to a blunt, and all this little shit that the mother liked. And it was a little shrine. And that was the first time I seen that shit, and I was like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? And just my spirit automatically knew, it never really encountering it in this lifetime. I knew something was ill about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, like, if we gotta be them people, too many things line up and fit, and if not us, who? Definitely not them people in the fucking land. Salakia. But for real though, like, again, when you sit back, I'm hearing and listening to certain brothers' videos, and, you literally, like, you can see the joy on brothers' spirit because of the fact brothers can feel this is it. You know what I mean? Can't say exactly when, but you could tell, you could feel through the spirit that the end is nigh. But when the Lord give us that power, we gonna humble the world. The scriptures talk about, what's that? Isaiah chapter 13. It talks about the Lord's gonna make man more precious than the gold of Ophir. And what type of man is that? A prophet of the Lord, an Israelite man. I was listening to the brother sit up there and say, you an Israelite. Have some self-respect about yourself. The world should be able to deem you different from the rest of, so-called, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, West Indians, and Haitians. I look at the job I got now, and years ago, before coming to this truth, I wouldn't have probably been at that job or been given the respect that I got. You know what I mean? Like they fired that Edomite without me saying a word. I never told on that dude or nothing. I used to tell the temp agency, like, I want to move, you know what I mean? You got another job, but I never told them that, he never sit up there and said nigga, but it was just like, you could feel the spirit and the atmosphere in the air, like, but all I did was look at the boss, the owner, and the owner looked at me and because basically they sent dude home and they said, like I said, that was enough. When I talked to the tip agency, she was like, yeah, between you and me, he ain't coming back. Yeah. Because I mean, if you truly in this knowledge, you pretty much know. The thing is, if you truly in this knowledge, you gonna carry yourself in a different. You're gonna carry yourself in a different mannerism. Period. I made a statement earlier because the thing is, you are who you are. You shouldn't be trying to be who somebody else is. Somebody can give you and offer you advice and, lay something out or give you a piece of game. But when you trying to emulate somebody to be like them and then you fuck up your what you got going and actually, that's just like, for instance, I remember a wise man saying before, like, when you got something going on and you do something and, it's bad enough if you get yourself in trouble, but if you get somebody else in trouble, you will never want to get a brother caught up in some shit you got going. That shit just off. We ain't coming into a time like that's what the elders, and I've been listening to a lot of brothers pushing that in one accord, pushing discipline, because we coming into times again. You might and I'm thinking about my situation, but I'm not though. You know what I mean? Like, I literally had nothing. You know what I mean? It's a miracle that I'm able to even sustain this because like I said again, I was homeless. The Lord has been by my side and has taken care of me for years. And again, I did what I did because, again, I fear the Lord so much. I didn't want to be secretly acting faking with a, crocodile tears or crocodile smile or, a pit bull look like it's smiling to bite your ass. You know what I mean? I don't want to be faking anything, but really secretly holding a heavy heart and really, you know what I mean? Like, no, the Lord will kill you. And anybody that's really moving secretly like that, that's secretly a demon, I don't even want to be by. If I'm the demon, then you ain't got to worry about, me corrupting nothing. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 4 and verse 1. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. And you seeing that happen right now. These women, it's a beautiful thing what DJ Trump doing. Because again, now these women are literally, I ain't gonna say desperate, but now they realize they ain't got it like they thought they had. They bubbles being bursted. Now they being humbled. Until they actually really humbled. The scripture talk about the pride of thy heart that have deceived thee, which is Esau Edom, because he thinking he really, I was listening to certain brothers call him stupid, and I've said it a few times because this is the most foolish shit you could ever do. I was listening to the one brother sit up there and say that he was speaking and then he just stopped. It's like, Esau is an idiot. You really go. He said, how did he word? He said, pretty much you gonna threaten the Lord, the Heavenly Father, the Most High God, the Lord of Sabaoths, the Lord of armies, a man of war. You gonna try to threaten the Heavenly Father, the Lord of Sabaoths, with war. You gonna threaten the man of war. When I remember a particular brother, he said, think about how powerful Yahweh Shem Yahushua is, and I never thought about it till the way he phrased or posed it. He said, the Lord is so powerful, he created an enemy to destroy it. And I was like, God damn, when you take time to really think about it like that, like just think about that for a second, like, damn. That's why, like, it says pretty much everything that they amassed with their pride pretty much is going to be done away with within 1 hour. That's the power that we serve. And you got certain men that, glory and pretty much have desires, and as long as you fulfilling the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, he will grant you your desires. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 37. I'm gonna start at verse 1. I'm gonna start at verse 1. A Psalm of David. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. So don't be envious of Esau Edom. What's that? It's Psalm 73. Said, I was jealous of the wicked. For they shall, Salakia, verse 2, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. Verse 3, trust in the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. And that's what we're looking forward to in those days when it be a famine in the land, not of just food, but of hearing the word. That's why it's so important to eat this roll and get it within you. Because, again, these people are going to be hopeless, with a lack of confidence, with a lack of faith in a hopeless world. And, and especially people going to be drawn to the light. This is going to be a dark world, you know what I mean? You ever seen that movie Dark City? I've listened to the elders, make mention of it. I couldn't get into it, but I'm going to try to rewatch it. I remember when that movie came out. And I really couldn't, I didn't have the understanding of it. I was younger. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? But, I'm going to look at it with new eyes. Because I remember watching the Book of Eli. I watched it in the world, and I was like, this movie garbage. And then after coming into the truth and watching it again, I said, oh, yeah, this is a great movie. Because, now you got that spiritual eye salve, so you filter everything through the scriptures and everything appears different. Verse 3, trust in the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Verse 4, the point, delight thyself also in the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. So if you, glory in women, or, the Lord take, like a brother sit up there and said, he said how, when he pretty much focused on the Lord and didn't focus on what was going on or happening to him in his life, the Lord came back around and blessed him with his kids. It's spiritual. I was going to jail trying to control carnally, my lot with my demon and my children. And it was until I gave up, as far as trying to control it. Like my demon ran to California with my kids. I ended up going out there to visit them, and that's when I camped with the brothers in California. And on that trip, I came to the realization I can't control this anymore. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to just come out here once a year on birthdays, yada, yada, yada. So when I decided to do that, I'll never forget, I left. It was the brother that pretty much they had picked me up from the airport and dropped me off. His name was Ayash, And that brother looked at me. He said, that's spiritual. He said, they about to do like they was in Long Beach. He just was looking at me. He's like, that's spiritual. He was like, you came, and as you leaving, they about to do, they was doing like, they was turning off the power in there for like, I forgot how long, but they was going to do like this weird shit where the power company's going to turn off the lights. So I'm not thinking nothing of it, but he looking at me like, that shit weird. I swear, as soon as I got back, like within like 3 days, she came back to Cleveland because she was so terrified because they was turning off the lights out there. then, like I said again, when I stopped trying to control the situation, that's when the Lord pretty much, like now I got my kids, and good or for ill, I don't know. At the end of the day, like I bumped my head a lot trying to control it, carnally when I should have just, like. So I agree with the brother on that. Don't worry about what's going on around you because that's Satan. You focus on doing because Satan gonna come with way more shit than what I mean. What he got going on now? You know what I mean? Like we ain't really seen nothing like that. That individual Jacob. Jacob be ruthless when they he said Barabbas is back and he like to get pegged. I mean, like, but that's the scriptures talk about the Lord is gonna laugh at you. He gonna the Lord gonna mock you, and how he's gonna mock you through the prophets. And then that's just the thing with that individual. Like I heard some of the comments he made. Yeah, he proud. So that's why you shouldn't exalt yourself because when the scriptures talk about pride coming before the fall. Which is deep. But, Salakia for the digression. At the end of the day, I mean, if you truly serving the Lord will give you what you need and sometimes what you want. But like I said again, like, I mean, it wasn't like oh, wow. Like, I remember Jake when he told me first time he had an Edomite or, he had wanted an Edomite. And I'm like, well, that really wasn't nothing, you know what I'm saying? But, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of digging on this one, but at the same time, the work slowed down. And I was like, well, damn, what I mean? And then I thought about it like, damn, So I watched the Lord put a spirit on her where she lightweight, and I'm like, damn, so that's for the best. You know what I mean? Right now, you want to be completely engulfed, not no pussy. That's what I say. Like the elder said. I mean, like that's the spirit. Discipline. You don't want to be engulfed in nothing, the cares and affairs of this world. Your secret, well, not even secret, but your little pleasures or, you know what I mean? Not your family, none of that. You know what I mean? I got children, but, I take care of them. I make sure, I give them time to be children. I try to, but we got a lot going on over here, you know what I mean? But, I don't have time to be, like I don't enjoy my children at all. I look at it like a responsibility, and being that it's a responsibility, I make sure to be on point with Yahweh Shem Yahushua, or I try to at least. I rephrase that because, none of us got it 100% right here, and I'll be the last one, or I'll be a liar to sit up and say, oh yeah, well, I dot all my I's and cross all my T's. No. We in this sinful, weak ass, decrepit, bodies, that go off, that are prone to that are, it's like they trying to, you know what I mean? Nah. But you wanna lock in for real, because like I say again, this shit about to get real deal, you know what I mean? And we ain't saying nothing yet, you know what I mean? Like I went and bought my daughter some shoes, and I just noticed like my rent went up. I'm like, damn, okay, boom, the rent went up. I went to go buy her some shoes because they growing and shit. I went and got I went to Burlington. I went and got some. Burlington got some, not no super just generic shit, but it ain't like top of the line Jordan type shit. You usually get deals out of Burlington. I went there and got some Pumas. Them bitches was costing more than men's shoes. And I'm like, I even had to ask the cashier. I said, damn, when did Pumas start costing this much? And she laughed. So if, put it like this, we went to, what's that shit called that used to be Revel? I went to that store first to just check the size of her shoe because she got like, she the youngest. So, she get hand-me-downs and shit. But, I didn't want to just have her in shoes that was too big for us. I didn't want her feet to be, or have some big ass feet, my baby little. So I went and sized her shoe correctly. Now I looked in there, I'm talking about they had New Balances. Them bitches was $110. So for some New Balances, fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, I can only imagine by September. So yeah, the 7 women go cleave onto one man. If that's what that's what you want. If you want, I'll be honest. I don't even want 7 women. 2 would be cool. When this bitch get on my nerves, I go to this one. Like, but I got 3 daughters. Man, like, how much of a headache that shit is. Oh no, man. Like, I mean, like, it sound good for the moment. I don't need all that. Whoever want that, you can have that. 2 is cool. When she get on my nerves, go over here. When she get on my nerves, I go over here. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 9. Starting at verse 1, it reads, Hear, O Israel, thou art to pass over Jordan this day, to go in to possess nations greater and mightier than thyself, cities fenced, cities great and fenced up to heaven, a people great and tall, the children of the Anakims, whom thou knowest, and of whom thou hast heard say, Who can stand before the children of Anak? Understand therefore this day that the Lord thy power is he which goeth over before thee. As a consuming fire he shall destroy them, and he shall bring them down before thy face. So shalt thou drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua have said unto thee. So Jake got to always keep in mind to remain humble, because when you read the scriptures, like I remember a brother that used to be in the camp, he used to do a series called The Lord's Battles, because at the end of the day, it's not truly us fighting, but the Lord fighting for us on behalf of us. And if you stay, down and locked in and faithful to Yahweh Shema Shah, he's going to stay faithful to you. Verse 4, Speak not thou in thine heart after that the Lord thy power hath cast them out from before thee, saying, For my righteousness the Lord hath brought me in to possess this land. Before the wickedness of these nations the Lord doth drive them out from before thee. Not for thy righteousness or for the uprightness of thine heart dost thou go to possess their land. Before the wickedness of these nations the Lord thy power doth drive them out from before thee, and that he may perform the word which the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua swear unto thy fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it wasn't because of our righteousness, but it was because of the wickedness of those nations, and because the Lord swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he would give them the land. Scripture said that the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua is a man that he cannot lie. So, and the scriptures talk about Israel having an everlasting kingdom, And you watching, the beginning of Yasharallah being formed now, because each true believer, each rooted brother in this truth is a brick. I pray that the Lord never takes his spirit away from me. I don't know what the Lord has planned. I don't know what the Lord, I don't know the mind of the Lord, I just know what I've said and what I've seen, and I know I'm expendable. Again, during the Passover, I had a dream like the second day of the Passover. Well, the first day is the Passover. The first day is the first day of unleavened bread, but the Passover is the first day, of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I think it was the next day. It was either that night or the next day. I can't remember. But I had a dream I ate leaven. But the thing was, I caught it and spit it out. So I don't know what that really breaks down to, what I mean? I pray that, I get some mercy, what I mean? Like, because again, right now, the way the Lord judging, I'm watching video after video of the Lord doing all kind of shit, It was just sunny and warm. I was just wearing, a wife beater. Nah, it's just snowing when I went to the stove. We definitely living in the last days. But, you need to trust in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Keep on reading. Verse 6, Understand therefore that the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua thy power giveth thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people. Remember and forget not how thou provokest the Lord thy power to wrath in the wilderness from the day that thou didst depart out of the land of Egypt until ye came unto this place. Ye have been rebellious against the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And that's why it's so important for you to basically remain humble and meek and repent and turn back to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Especially being that we just came through the Passover. You know, that's the thing, you know what I mean? Like, just because you ain't get judged right now, you know, the Lord is long suffering, you know what I mean? Look at how he dealt with that guy, Gorilla Hebrew. He went all them years, pumped that man head up to the point to expose him in front of all of Israel. Not some within in camp in your own household. No, you got other men in other camps. And one thing I keep on thinking about that just keep coming back into my spirit is that dream that brother from PA had. You know, confidence is a hell of a thing. You know what I mean? You know, like, it ain't nothing. The Lord love a confident man. You look at Elijah. Elijah was confident when he went against the prophets of Baal. You know, to the point he was talking shit. So if you confident in righteousness, yeah. The Lord love that. But before the end of this, we all gonna be humbled. You know. So, you know, I pray this lesson be edifying if you're a so-called Salaki. I pray this lesson was edifying. If you're a so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian, West Indian, or Haitian, I implore you to come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments of your power, whose true name in the Paleo Hebrew is Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, or you will be destroyed. And with that, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to call Loyim La Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Hakodash. Double honors to the elders, to the apostles that taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth with faith and with sincerity, as well as risking their lives and the freedom to do so now more so than ever. Shalom to the Akim and the Aqua thought they're listening and learning, Lord willingly. This is edifying. Shalom to the Israelite foreigners scattered abroad in the land of other nations, appearing like the other nations who subscribe to this truth. To you, I say shalom. Till next time, Lord willingly. Shalom, shalom. Kwame Yasharallah. Mawaf Lababah.